Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to and Happy New Year. Welcome to the first regular meeting of the City of Ojai Arts Commission. Let us have roll call, please. Liaison Renger.
Yes, Commissioner Grau?
Here.
Commissioner Wright?
Here.
Vice Chair Steiner?
Here.
Chairman West?
Here.
Thank you. We also have Commissioner Leeds is absent.
Yes, thank you, and he sends his best. Yep. Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Public comments. I got one card. Is that right?
Yes, we have one public comment at this time.
Yeah. Michael Estwanek, please, 3 minutes.
Hi, everybody. We have good news. American Songbook today is spreading its wings. We are now going to be doing the same concerts that we've been doing in Ojai in Ventura. They came to see us, our Johnny Mercer show, and have invited us to perform them also at Namba, which is a great state-of-the-art, a great piano, sound, lights, it all comes with it. They're doing the ticketing, they're doing the PR. I just have to write the show and cast it and direct it. So it's really wonderful. And I just got a call today from a venue in Santa Barbara that wants to talk to me. So, you know, we're spreading our wings. It took a while, but we're spreading our wings. And, pardon?
That's a song.
Yeah, I think it is. And, you know, it's been heartwarming to find venues that believe in our mission, which is to celebrate the American Songbook and preserve it for future generations. So that's very cool. And we have, so Sunday, February 9th, which is Super Bowl Sunday, we are providing alternative entertainment for those that don't enjoy watching people hurt themselves. And nobody gets hurt at our concert so far. But we are also, it's the Sunday before Valentine's Day. So we're changing out what some of the program was here and adding more love songs. So we're very excited, and that's our news.
Thank you.
And can I leave these for you?
Michael, I handed the James to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for keeping song alive in our valley. Number 5, consent items. I don't see anything on here. I believe we're going to catch up with
Sure.
minutes next month. Yes, Liaison, James.
I believe we skipped item 4,
Item
presentations.
4.
Yes, right.
That's not important. We'll move on. Item 4, thank you. As part of our community art organization presentations today, we welcome from the Ojai Performing Arts Theater, or OPAT, the artistic director, Richard Camp. So, Richard, we welcome you and thank you for sharing this with the people in the room and the people watching out there. I'm glad they can't smell what's going on in the room because a skunk has just recently sprayed outside the door.
I mean, I have a
Take your time.
time limit. Okay. Oh, I just want to begin by reminding you who we are, in case you don't know. The Ojai Performing Arts Theater, or OPAD, is a nonprofit, and we believe we try to present the best theater in Ojai that we can possibly do. Our mission statement says that we combine professional actors with non-professional actors, put them together, and we create magic. The last huge success that we had was Into the Woods, which you may have seen. Thank you. It was a spectacular show. You know, Smitty was involved. Yes. And we even surprised ourselves. It just turned out so well. We were just very happy with the show. It's just, and I think the community was happy. One thing you may not know about OPAT is that another part of our mission statement, as a matter of fact, is we give portions of our earnings to other nonprofits. For instance, in the past we have done shows, Black Comedy, Man of La Mancha, She Loves Me, Grand Hotel, I Do, and of course Into the Woods, the Fantastics. As an example, I think the largest donation we made, we had a huge success with Grand Hotel, and the Land Conservancy received $29,000 from us. We are in the process of slightly changing that. We don't give everything away now because we do need to sustain ourselves. So it's now going to be on a percentage basis. Another example is last Christmas. We did a Christmas show called Christmas at the Movies. It was the first live show to be done at the new Ojai Playhouse, and it was a magnificent experience. And again, it was a benefit for Help of Ojai. And we were very happy that we contributed more than $6,000 to Help of Ojai for them to give Christmas meals to those in need. We have been very busy. You may know that our CEO is the wonderful Joan Kemper, and she is the wonderful age of 102. And we are in the process, we spent the last 4 months with a search committee in the process of looking for someone to take over when she decides to retire. I don't think she ever will, but when she decides to retire. And we have actually found someone to do that, and I can't tell you who it is because we're doing a big PR about it in a couple of weeks. So watch this space, and you will find, the new adventures of OPAD. Coming up in February 21st to the 23rd is actually, our next two shows are very, very different. The next show is a one-man show, which will feature me. I'm doing the one-man show. After that, we're doing a huge musical of Hair, and we're doing Hair by, she likes, wonderful. Well, we're doing Hair, and the twist is I'm going to cast it with older people instead of the younger people. When I was in college, I directed Hair as my senior thesis, and we did it in a small conservative community. And my theater professor said, you cannot do this. We argued for 2 weeks about doing this. Finally, he said, okay, you can do it, but you cannot do the nude scene. I said, sure, we don't have to do that. I mean, it's 30 seconds in the show. We did the show, the community responded, it was spectacular. So we're going to try to recreate that idea, but my feeling is that the show is, I want to talk with older people, and the premise is that all the people that we're going to cast have done Hair when they were younger. So we're going to find out whether those themes and issues that were in Hair are still relevant for today. And spoiler alert, I think they are. So that's coming up probably in the summer. Sorry. The one-man show that's coming up in February is an unusual production. It's kind of hard to describe. It's a play/memoir/storytelling experience / comedy routine, kind of based on my life. I was born in the deep South, and actually the best way to describe it is I'm going to give you the first 5 minutes of the show. Hey, y'all. I want to thank y'all for coming out. It's just been a wonderful time. I want to just get a few things off my chest. Actually, I want to talk to you about nothing. Porgy told Bess that he had plenty of it. Shakespeare said, well, nothing will come of nothing. Socrates said that wisdom is knowing that you know nothing. And deeper thinkers than I tell me that as soon as you say nothing, it becomes something, so it can't be nothing. But the best thing I ever heard about nothing is a buddy of mine. He's a preacher. He said, in the beginning there was nothing. And God said, let there be light. There was still nothing, but you could see it better. Now, I'm talking about this because my life is just a little out of whack. My body is been out of balance since radiation and chemo wiped out a cancerous tumor in my gut. My life has been out of balance since I was a child, and I thought everyone in the world was, well, let's call it damaged. You see, to understand what I'm talking about, you need to come back to when I was about 5 years old. I'm going to go back to when I was the time, that was when the meaning of God first entered my consciousness, and it was around that time I thought everybody in the world needed some fixing because everybody in my family was deformed in some way. And now bear with me, everything's the God's honest truth except for the parts that ain't. You see, when I want to say they deformed, because nobody ever used that word, they wouldn't say that word. So if you don't know the word, and nobody's ever said it to you, then the world didn't include that very idea. Because nobody in my family or friends thought they were deformed. They just thought it was normal. Except they didn't use that word either, it was too big. Now you're probably thinking I'm so dumb I can't put GPS in the alphabetical order, but just bear with me. I'm going to tell you a little bit about these folks. Some of them maimed, some of them lame, some of them about to fall off the deep end, some of them treading water already, some of them smart as a whip, some of them had to get naked to count to 21. All of them played a big part in my consciousness of the concept of God. Now my buddy, the minister, he's got a good thing to say about that too. He says, if you buy a Bible and you never open it, you're a Catholic. If you buy a Bible and you cherry pick the verses that support your point of view, you have the confirmation bias of an evangelical. And if you buy a Bible and study it, pore over it, question all the contradictions, try to marry some of those stories with historical reference, then you're an atheist. So I just want to tell you about a couple of these people. My stepdaddy, he had a crossed eye, because when he was a young'un, he got hit in the eye with a rock, and his right eye was permanently crossed. So when he was looking at me and yelling at me, which was just about all the time, his left eye was going here, his right eye was over here, so I kept looking over there, and that really pissed him off really bad, and so it made him mad. He was a trucker, and he took off his belt to give me some whipping. And this wasn't a normal belt. This was a mother trucker with a buckle belt, and that buckle was as big as a little canned ham. And it had the word Elvis embossed on it, raised Elvis. And when he whooped me, he didn't use the belt. He used the buckle part. So I had Elvis burnished in my butt going through puberty. Now, he had a cousin, too. The cousin was named Nell, and she was the piano player at our church. And she was the piano player at our Baptist church, even though she was missing 2 fingers on her left hand. And she would bang out that rhythm on her left hand and play that melody on her right hand, and she just had that thing humming and rolling. Now, this is the God's honest truth. Her husband, he worked in the machine shop. And one day he got his hand stuck in the machine, and it tore off 3 fingers on his right hand. So when they held hands, it was like one hand. These were the kind of people, and I started thinking at that time, that was the point when I first started thinking that none of this made any sense. And it goes on from there. So that's happening on the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd at the Arts Center, even though it's an OPAT production, because we are homeless. We don't have a place so we can do things, so we rent things. So I do hope you all come out. I do appreciate the fact that we have been given a wonderful grant from the Arts Commission in the past 2 years, so we can't apply for one this year, so we will next year. So just keep us in mind, and thank you for your time. Thank you.
Let's see if we have some questions. Stay, Richard. See if we have some questions. February is your show, and then when is Hair?
Oh, Harry's in the summer.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Okay.
went a little out of order there, yeah. Yeah, February 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Can I say that again? And then sometime in the summer. We're actually negotiating with the new, whatever you call them, not owners, but the new people who control the Libby Bowl. So we may possibly do it at the Libby Bowl, which would be very exciting.
Wow.
Yeah, yes. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Yeah.
I wish we had more techno. I wish we had a permanent theater, you know. I know that Joan has
Well, it's-
worked her whole life to make that happen, and
It's been Joan's dream for the last 20 years, and I hope we can do it, yes, before she retires.
right.
That's
All right.
that's what we want.
Anybody
I'm
else?
sorry
All right.
David is missing. Yeah, David, yeah. But I'll talk to him
He'll be
tomorrow.
joining us again. All right.
Thank you.
Thank
you,
you,
Richard.
thank
Thank you,
you for the
OPEC.
wonderful performance. Sounds really good.
Well, Richard, where, I'm trying to place the accent.
Pardon?
Where in the South are you from?
North Carolina, honey.
Okay, really?
Born in North Carolina, but when I was 5, we moved to Michigan. And I grew up in Michigan, and all the people that lived up in North Carolina, they all moved up there too.
Uh-huh.
So we had a little enclave of North Carolina people in Michigan. So I lost my accent eventually, and after I lost my accent, I think my IQ went up 20 points.
Oh, that's not fair. What town, what county, what town in North Carolina?
Gastonia.
Say?
Gastonia.
Gastonia, yeah, okay.
Halfway between Asheville and Charlotte.
Yeah. It doesn't get more,
But when I went to college in Florida, my family moved back to North Carolina, so they're all there now because my mom passed away, and I have no idea where my stepdad is, so, but my brothers are still there, yeah. So I have kind of a strange upbringing, you know, Southern and car manufacturing.
yeah, welcome to America, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great. All right, let's get, let me see, consent items. Was I correct to what I said on that? Okay.
Yes, you are. Thank you.
So there are no consent items. All right, we have,
But I think the point to make is that we
Oh,
don't
yes.
have minutes to approve because the grant cycle essentially eclipsed all the time there was. So we'll get 2 sets of minutes at the next meeting. Is that right, James?
Yes, we are looking to get caught up on the meeting minutes. It was actually the tax information regarding the previous grant cycle. So it wasn't this current grant cycle, which is presently making its way to the consent calendar for City Council. It's last year's, and we're just doing our taxes. It's that time of year.
we have 6A, B, C. Are there any public comments on any of this? Or 6A?
We've received no comment at this time.
Thank you. I'm going to turn over 6A for the 2024 grants presentation schedule to Commissioner Carina. Would you care to guide us through this?
You're doing the A, right?
Yes.
The 2024 grants presentation schedule. We brought this up at our last meeting. I don't know if you guys remember that. And you know that previous recipients of grants have to come and present what they did with their grant money. And I'm just trying to get some clarification on how that process should proceed, whether it's a written statement. Previously, according to our manual here, the instructions are that the recipients send a summary report at the end of the year in which they got the grant. So the 2024 grant recipients need to now be coming forth with their summary. And we had suggested that they come in person or in writing. And I just wanted to discuss that and see if anybody had any ideas or, if we can get some clarification from the city on how they want to handle it. I know that James had some ideas on that.
Mostly the ideas you've presented, and we've only really stated past practices. From my understanding, we have no particular opinion on how it's brought to the commission. Although it is stated in the manual, there are multiple ways it could be done. As Commissioner Wright mentioned, either in writing or via presentations to effectively let the commission know how these previous grant projects went.
I would, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I have a question. If the reports are submitted in writing, would you then give a presentation to us explaining what the results were?
I certainly could. I hadn't considered that. But,
I think there just needs to be a public
right, discussion.
discussion about how they did.
Right, I agree. And, I mean, the summary report has, a few questions. Maybe we can make sure it
I'm sorry, which
covers.
report is it?
The summary, there is a form letter. I don't know if they've ever done it in the past.
Not since I've been
Should be
here.
in your
yeah.
commission handbook.
So
Okay.
what I wanted to recommend is that everybody sent the arts grant summary report, an edited version of this, soon. And so the question is, does that come from me as the chair of the grants, or does it come from the city? And then with the invitation to submit this in writing, and then we have everybody submit it in writing. And they can put it in a file somewhere. And then also invite them if they want to come in person to present in person.
Well,
Too arduous?
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to have a little talk about it here?
Yeah.
Is that what you'd like
Yeah.
to do? Commissioner
Yeah.
Stein?
So my thinking is that people should be given a choice whether to submit solely in writing or to appear and present. And we know that some organizations have already asked to report. I wouldn't make everyone do the form plus appear. And I agree with Pam that for reasons of accountability, we certainly need to report out those forms if they don't report. And I'd like to add that if they do neither, that is, we don't know whether and how they spent the money, I think we have to have some teeth in this, in the sense that they've got to return the money. And because last year's grant was essentially everyone, and it was a small amount as well, and no one essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think no one said, we don't want the money. Some considered not taking it at all, but I think everyone took it. Is that right?
I would need to review with finance, but to my understanding, all recipients did accept
Right.
the award.
I think that's
And-
right. So then we have a very large group, but I think we do want them to appear. And I think we want them to do it quickly, because I don't want there to be a confusion between the 24 grants and the 25 grants.
Right, we should, if we can get this out within the next week, give them 30 days to submit in writing, 30 days to sign up for a presentation, something like that. There's the March meeting, it would be good if we could give them a couple of meetings, right? Given people's
Well,
performance
yeah,
schedules and stuff.
I'm concerned if we make the meeting like an official part of it,
Right.
it could get large and out of hand, and we may have trouble incorporating it. So we could do that on the fly, but I think we
Yeah.
want to make sure that we get, one, what we told them we were going to ask for, which I don't have that at the top of my head. And secondly, I might want you to go ahead and just read down the list of the questions there that
Okay,
are on that form.
I was just gonna say
So-
that there were 17 grant recipients for 2024.
Uh-huh.
And, I would like to know,
What about
they
20,
completed
I'm
their
sorry,
pro-
these are the ones that were awarded in 2023. Okay, these are the ones the city council gave it all out to. Yeah, okay.
right? We're calling it 2024.
I
They
think
got their
it's
money in like January, February of 2024. So the ones we just approved we'll call 2025.
Right.
So there's 17 of them, so obviously that is a lot to have
Right.
present, but what if they presented, over time? Like, it doesn't have to be, if
Well,
they,
we may not have asked for that, though, is what I'm thinking to begin with. But we
Well,
did ask for something, and that's what I
yes.
wanted to hear
Oh,
on the
oh.
list.
Well, we did, one of the requirements of the application is that they have to report back
Okay.
how they spent their money.
Okay, but not in person. It's a form you have there that I don't have in front of me.
Do you want to see it? Or you
Yeah,
want me to read it?
Or would you read it, each of them? Is
Okay.
it quick? Yeah.
I mean, it's,
Give us
I just wanted to
It's a
see the
chance to
lang,
feel for what the
just
scope
had the
is.
language of,
these are all organizations that are fiscally responsible, though already should have some accounting on it
But they're
anyways.
individuals as well. Recall, last year, the city council gave it to
Everybody.
everyone, whether or not they were qualified.
Yeah,
there's
but they
only
would have had,
one, two,
they would have had fiscal sponsors, though.
four.
But they didn't, remember?
You know, I would,
Yeah, well, I think we owe it to our taxpayers to account for
Yeah.
that money, for sure.
Thank you.
I'd like to suggest that we get the reports in writing, and then you summarize, you report back to us, rather than, because I think having everyone, because there's so many from last year,
Yeah.
because there's everybody, that we keep it, so we can move on with other things that we need to do with the commission, because otherwise, we're going to be spending months, watching people's presentations, and we're already into the next grant cycle. So I think that if you get a written report from each of them, and you kind of go through and make sure that they've done what they said they did.
I hear you, but my worry is that because last year was so anomalous, and we had so many people, and the amounts were so small, I don't want us to be setting a precedent where people don't come back and report. So I'm fine with your plan of only in writing and having Karina report if we understand that these were unusual circumstances and we're not throwing out our
Well,
standard
yeah, and I think
protocol.
that instead of giving back the money, as you suggested, maybe if they don't report back in and we don't know what happened, they're kind of blacklisted from future grants, that we don't give grants to people who don't report in.
That's bad fiscal policy. I mean,
Just leave it at-
all grantors have to take back money that isn't appropriately spent per.
It will always be up
regs.
to the
Yeah,
committee
Okay.
that does the decisions then. So I
But
suggest.
I just want to point out that there were 17, we're talking about the 17 recipients from 24. We have almost that for the 25.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be really different. So I think we should set the precedent now for how we want to go forward.
Yes, yes.
In the future.
Okay, well, here's a
regardless of the fact
suggestion.
that this
Here's a
is
suggestion that we take
anomalous.
this, which is from the handbook, and
Mm-hmm.
they're expecting to be able to answer this, and we don't ask for any detailed, audited accounting on this. It's more subjective type answers. But if we can just make this into a online PDF form that we can put on the website, and we can then just direct everybody from, it's easy, and they'll just, see, it's short enough that it doesn't need to be saved, they can fill it out in one time. I know James is aching to do this for us, and,
I'd be happy to.
and then we can just direct people to go and fill this out, then we can review them and invite them then, as appropriate, to be, but I guess it's difficult with them. Well, we'll have to see what our schedule is and what we'll have to review what comes in and then maybe decide. There may be people who didn't spend the money. There may be people who, are the project's ongoing or it's completed or not ongoing. I remember when I got a grant, I ended up filling this thing out, yeah.
You did?
No one asked me to, though. I just was scared at the end of the year and I did it, yeah. So,
Well,
well, yeah, good, we should. So
You know,
let's just.
this arts grant summary report could be included when they receive their grant money. Or at least
Absolutely.
a letter when they receive their grant money that reminds them once again that they have to report back. I don't know what they get when they receive their check. It's probably just a
Well, no one's going
payroll
to
check,
object to
right?
having to do it, but we have to make it easy to do, or I should say, we should be able to tell them in advance that they're able to do this. So if,
Right.
on our website, we can just have a PDF format that comes to either you or staff as you decide, you guys can decide that. And then, and then you'll take a look at them, and
Right.
then we'll decide about inviting them to meetings, or maybe put a little paragraph about that on the.
I like the idea of having more engagement with the organizations. And we do have our people coming in and giving us a presentation every time, but I don't think it hurts to have a couple of short presentations. I don't want it to be difficult in terms of their individual scheduling. I know this meeting is right at dinner time, hard to get, people are working till 6. So if there was some way we could organize this, that maybe the summary report has to be filed in X amount of days after the new year, and then we would welcome you to tell us more in person at any of these meetings between these times. Because we could even say, I mean, I have no problem going into June with a couple of them, as long as it's before the next grant cycle application. So then, and if they could come between 6 and 7:30, so maybe somebody's gonna come for, 7:15. We're here usually until at least 7:30. It's not gonna hold us
Okay.
late. Is
Well,
that
how
too
about,
complicated?
how about I make a little motion, whether or not we need a motion here, just to help us collect our thoughts here. So I'll move that we direct the grants committee, being you, to review the summary report we currently require, that we we try to put it online to make it easy for the 2024 recipients to receive, with the idea that it will be a model for future years as well, and then ask you to report back at the conclusion, and let me add, and if appropriate, invite them for a public presentation, but let's keep it like, as you guys come up with, and you can look at them. And then to report back then for any changes we might make for the 2025 recipients.
Just so I can.
Someone want to add something to that? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'd just like to verify the motion. So
Yeah.
the motion is to direct the grants committee to provide us with the summary that will be then placed online and then reviewed by the grants committee before making determinations if the presentations will be presented before the commission.
Yes, but I want to say use our current summary report, so there's no something new required. It's just,
I think that, I think this is from 2019. I would definitely want to do a quick edit on this, streamline this, especially if it's an online. Maybe we can do more yes, nos, things like that.
in my motion, I'm trying to let her just kind of run with it and not have to come back and just look at it and review it.
No,
and
we're
that
not gonna
sort of
come
stuff. Okay, good. So I'm
So
looking,
if that's really a motion and a motion is necessary, I second it.
thank you.
But-
Anyone want to add or take away from any of that? Do you have everything you need to go do this now, do you think?
Well, one thing we have to clarify is that the 2024 grants recipients need to be notified that they have to, with a link, that they have to go and fill this form out. And I know James and I struggled with these applications. All their contact information was blacked out. However, I think since then, we have compiled the list, and with the exception of these individuals. So we might have to maybe reach out, maybe somebody like you might know these individuals who.
Well, I'm going to add to my motion, somewhere with a between two commas, and notify the 2024 recipients in the manner determined by the committee, by the grants committee.
Yeah.
And then you guys can just, whether that's an email or you need to dig
Yeah.
up an email address, we don't need that in the motion. Second on that? Okay, anything else on that? Do you feel like you got that and you have everything you need?
Right, and then we're going to move on to another.
Yeah, good. So all in
So
favor?
that's the, all in favor. Are you going to do roll call?
Aye, good. So, great. I think it's fair.
have to do
Do you need a roll?
We
I
are-
would like to read back
Yeah,
the motion
please.
just to make sure we have this
Okay.
correct. The motion presented by Chair West, direct the Grants Commission to review the results of the online poll utilizing the existing summary and advise that the council provide that summary with the disbursement of the 2024-2025 grant cycle disbursements.
Oh,
It's
With a second.
2024.
I'm sorry.
So let's just call it 2024.
The 2024 grant cycle summary, yes.
And unless you want to put this all in one motion, and then the other part is 2025 recipients, when they are notified that they have received a grant, they will also be told that they will have to complete this summary. Is that a
yeah,
separate
there are words
motion?
in, I had those words in there. They were
Yeah.
something, this would become standard for future
So-
grants. And
So,
with 2024, 5 and on. The other thing that you missed was the online, in a manner appropriate, hopefully online. Maybe get that in there too, okay? That's what, I'm trying to make it actually easy. PMI?
Too much in-
information.
Well, I don't think we even needed a motion for this, but I just wanted us to.
right, yeah. I
Wrap it
just-
up. So I'm using Rosenberg to do that. Okay.
Understood. So we have the motion. We have a second from Vice Chair Steiner. Can we get a roll call, please? We do have absent Commissioner Leeds, Commissioner Grau.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner West?
Yes.
Excuse me, Chairperson West. Vice Chair Steiner?
Yes.
Commissioner Chu.
Thank you. And Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Thank you very much. We have 4 and 1 absent. The motion passes.
Thank you. 6B is also Commissioner Karina. Eligibility criteria. What do you have here?
Let's see. So, in the last grant cycle that we just had, I just wanted to bring this up while it was super fresh. We had, where are my recipients? We gave, we awarded 13 grants out of 19 applications. And all of the individual artists did not meet the criteria of the grants in either their financial statements, their lack of fiscal sponsors. They did not complete their applications, a whole myriad of reasons. So it's been brought up before, and the question is if we want to continue including individuals in the grants or making a separate application for individuals. I firmly believe that the application is not clear enough for individuals. It's just the fact that no individual was able to complete the application correctly leads me to believe that perhaps it's not clear enough that they are excluded from receiving a grant if they don't have a fiscal sponsor. We went back to people, we gave people extra time. They weren't able to come forth with the information. So it just sort of opens up the opportunity to discuss if we want to streamline the grants at all, if we want to, as I said, make a separate application for organizations versus individuals. Also, maybe the individuals, they might have different criteria than the organizations. So-
I have a quick question. Of the applications that were individuals, were there projects, community projects, or were they individual artistic practice projects?
They were individual practice
Okay.
projects.
Because it's difficult finding a fiscal receiver when you're a nonprofit, when you're not a nonprofit and you're an individual. But also, are we interested in giving grants to individuals for their own personal projects if it's not serving the community?
Well,
Christine, let's
Go
call on Christine.
Yeah, I actually do have a strong view on this. And my view is that we should limit it to organizations. And I say that because it's a very small pot of money that we have. As it is, the pot of money doesn't go as far as it can and should. And at the risk of sounding like a Marxist here, I think our job is to do the greatest good for the greatest number of persons. And I think that includes giving to organizations rather than to individuals. If we had more money, it would be great to expand it, but we don't see that on the horizon.
Right. I'm gonna go here, Pamela. I did have a discussion about this very topic with David Yoshitomi at the county, and there's a reason that most government and foundation grants have this requirement for 501c3s. And it's a best practice because of the already fairly rigorous standards that have to be met in terms of both history, responsibility, background checks, licenses with the states, clearance with the Justice Department at the state, the IRS and the well, it's not the IRS, but what would that be?
Franchise tax board.
Well, I'm thinking of the IRS. That's actually, is that my civics, I don't think there's a secretary of the IRS, though, is there? What do they call that? Okay.
Department of Treasury.
The Treasury, that's it, yeah, Treasury. Yeah, okay, thank you. That's already in place, so we don't have this risk that something has. Now, I have been applying for grants, and I did apply for four grants from the state in December. It's for $100,000, $75,000. So I think when we have more substantial money, I've seen a Ventura Community Foundation once a year will open a small thing for small grants for individual artists, but everything else you have to have a fiscal sponsor or be a 501c3. And it's for those reasons exactly. I think we have the responsibility to be prudent with because we're not all accountants here on the commission, nor will people that are on our grants committee be as well. So I think it's David said it was a good best practices. There is ways of doing that, but it's a whole lot more work, and maybe you're gonna have to get insurance or bonds behind it or something like that. So I think we may need to be more, a fiscal sponsor, though, truly should receive the funds and actually report back and do their reporting. And we have never put that in place, and that would be more important and we're at a higher risk, I think, if we don't incorporate that into our reporting. So,
But I don't think we had individuals until last year when we had the scatter shot everyone.
I remember 10 years ago
Oh, we
applying
have
for
one
grants
of
here.
others? How many years? Couple, a couple, yeah.
Not
So,
that-
right.
No, we
Well,
did.
I know
again,
Pam
we're
wants to say
tightening everything
something,
up.
but
Yeah.
I just want to say that
Go ahead.
I think that deciding whether, I would like to see individuals get grants from this commission. Sort of the opposite could be said, that we have so little money, let's give it to individuals. So,
I have a solution.
you do?
I think so.
Pamela, what do you
So
got?
I'm with you on the nonprofits, but maybe we can take some money aside and have like an art prize where, let's say, individual artists could apply for this city art prize for a project or something that they're doing. Let's say somebody wants to do a sculpture and they need $500, or we cap it at a certain number, like 500, 1,000, I don't know. Some amount of money and we have maybe 5 of them. And it's only for an individual artist with an individual project that we find has merit, and we want to support them. And it comes not as a grant, but as encouragement.
I like your thinking. It could also be that individuals are only judged among the individuals.
Right.
So we set aside, we're going to, out of our budget, we're going to give, $5,000 to the individual artists, maybe cover their materials, their recording studio costs, something like that, and then the balance goes towards, because as it was, the way we juried them, they're all together. So
They're not equal.
they didn't. I know they don't rank in terms of the criteria that we want our grant recipients to reach, which is, as you know.
Well, I think a merit-based reward, isn't necessarily a grant, but, if somebody's doing an exhibition, they need expense paid, or
Then
doing a
who's going to
concert.
judge the merit and? I
I
guess
hear it,
com-
and it's a good idea, and a
complicated.
solution may be that an arts organization that is a 501c3 applies for a grant for doing grants for individuals or something. That way we kind of would get out of the
Smitty,
mix.
that's exactly
Yeah.
what I was going to suggest. My worry, in part because we have a structure that we know works, my worry about creating a whole different structure is that it's filled with the potential for mischief. But if we did have an entity that would then oversee it, I think that might be a way around it. But I really don't think, I don't think until we have our grant structure perfect, we should be creating a new structure.
I understand what you're saying. I think that's good. I mean, the Ojai Studio Artist could be a visual thing. The music festival could give a music prize. We have OPAC, for an actor or theatrical. I mean, we could have something that we give to them to grant.
And it
And
could
we
be in a
could do-
different timeframe too.
And we can do a educational seminar on how to use a fiscal sponsor.
Right.
Well,
Because
that
any
is-
individual can go do that if they know how to do it. Because that's truly the kind of
It's-
professional,
But it's hard to find them
Way
in
to do-
town. I've gone through a few artists trying to
because
get.
they're wary.
Yeah.
For the same reasons that I think Christine
Well,
and I are wary,
What I wanted to bring up regarding the fiscal sponsor is, there are now many companies that are providing fiscal sponsorship, 501c3 sponsorship to organizations that don't have their not-for-profit status yet.
Right.
For the creative good, or,
Sure,
And if you,
6 or 10% they charge, and they require their individual artists to provide
So,
the kind of.
I would have accepted those types of organizations as fiscal sponsors
absolutely.
in these cases. And when I was pulling my hair out over all of this, I Googled it, and you can get a fiscal sponsor online
Yep.
in about 3 days. 10 minutes for the application, 3 days for it to turn around, which is why I didn't have a lot of sympathy, empathy, anything for these people who didn't manage to come up with the one of the main criteria.
I'll
But-
create a seminar for it.
Yes, there you go.
But we
That's
also
it.
did not have the grants application workshop last year.
Yeah.
And so that's the other thing I want to make sure we get on the books. Artists need help. They're not necessarily professionals. They need to learn how to do these grants, and this is a great place
important,
with such a small grant that,
Well, the grant we applied for, I did the work on in December from the state. It had, besides the grants, there was also 75,000 requests for continuing education. One of the criteria for their process in these Catalyst grants was that the jobs that are being created in California now post-COVID need to be good jobs, and they need to, I can see our arts commissioner, our government here, helping artists have better jobs, and to do that, they need these skills that they're not going to get in the high school or the community college about grants and about copyrights and about financial planning let's tighten up our grants and kind of move forward. We do have an avenue for individual artists to do that if they get a fiscal sponsor, so they're not being excluded. But I think the very thing you point out, that they were the hardest ones to get information from, points to the problem that they're more in need of education
exactly.
about how
And
to do
and
it.
I think that we should we can have the same application, I think, just to simplify things for the city. But in terms of the scoring rubric for arts grants, that we have two separate ones for artists versus organizations, so that we can score them appropriately.
Christine, did you want to say something?
Yes, I mean, I think to a large extent, this is pie in the sky until we know, first of all, that there's been serious, robust education and that there's any real money in the pot. And so with that, I'd like to move that we restrict the upcoming grants to organizations only and not to individuals.
I'm wondering if we need a motion and anything on this
We
to,
need a second to discuss it.
that's why I'm not saying to. Okay, second, and we'll discuss it. I guess we already have it in place as is. Yeah, you're asking, you brought a discussion thing
I
here
did.
for
I
us
mean,
to
just-
talk about it, and I feel like we've
I'm in-
discussed it, because I'd hate to kick out individuals
Me
too.
too.
But we do have an avenue already in place with fiscal sponsorships. So, and we may in the future, have an avenue for that. So I'm not sure we need to vote on it. I would,
My feeling is we should try to make the grants as accessible to the most amount of people. But we have to figure out a way that it makes sense.
Yeah.
I'd like to suggest that I form a workshop for grant writing. We did one, but that was more about finding out about grants, but a really comprehensive workshop that's open to the public. And then also do one on fiscal sponsorship, so that if individuals do apply, that they are prepared, and then leave
you
it
have an
as
opinion
is.
on whether we should vote on this? That's sort of what's on the table here right now.
I think just leave it as is, but we help people figure out how to do this.
I feel that way too. Do you want to pull your motion?
I'd like to encourage Pam to do that on both points. So I second.
Okay, now, it's not on the agenda to vote, get approval for adding those workshops. Can we do that tonight?
Well, we don't need to.
I'd
Let
like
me
to
come back to
amend
the
my
thing that's on the
motion, if I
motion.
may.
You were going to do it?
Yeah, I'm going to amend my
Amend
motion
it, okay.
slightly. And the amendment is that when the grants reach a threshold of $50,000, that we open it to individuals as well as to organizations. And while it's below that 50,000 threshold, that it be open to organizations only. And again, my purpose is for the greatest good for the greatest number.
I'd like to say,
Second, anyone? I didn't say second, though.
Did second or didn't second?
I didn't.
Did
I
not.
thought 50 seems random to me, and,
I agree. 40?
no, because we're going to get 100 this year.
Let's
is-
make it 100.
is a second just a discussion, or is that like a vote?
We were looking, no,
We're in
second means
discussion.
we'll discuss that
Okay,
that motion.
okay, so I'll second it to have a discussion,
Okay.
which is, I think if we leave it as it is, when it comes to voting and deciding on who gets grants, the cream of the crop is gonna rise to the top. And if an individual doesn't have a good project or doesn't have a project that we find merit in, it's not going to go on, it's not going to be granted probably. So I think it will sort itself out without drawing a line.
Right, and I would like the grants
Which it
committee,
did.
the grants,
Which it did last year.
Yeah, it did.
Thanks to Karina's.
yeah.
It
I
did.
would think our ad hoc committee or our grants committee would come to us and say, hey, this is what I want you guys to vote on.
I think we leave it as is.
Then keep in mind, again, with so little money in the pot, it means that everyone gets to do less stuff.
Sure.
Just-
Well, I'd like to know more about what other organizations come up against when they accept individual applicants as well. I just saw Simi Valley had a way for individuals to get small grants.
And so did
I might want
Ventura.
to research that, yeah,
They
yeah.
have a separate thing on the website.
But I'm just sort
David
of,
showed us.
I'm hanging on, having just gone
So
through this
I
grant
would
cycle,
just-
I'm hanging on what David had told me about.
Right.
It just, you get the protection of the
I especially feel strongly about not narrowing it to organizations tonight, especially since
well, it's already,
this is a new discussion, and I've done one grant cycle, and I'm just coming up with more ideas, and everybody has more ideas, and I don't know that limiting it to organizations is going to solve our budget crisis, and I think that we are also trying to support individuals in the community who then will have more reach. So it's a tricky one.
I would trust our ad hoc committee in the future to come to us and say, hey, we find these individuals, where they are or something, or come to us with a, we already have an avenue with a fiscal
Well,
sponsorship.
Well, that's why I
so-
mentioned like a separate pool of money that we would want to designate, a small pool of money, because.
Yeah, but then, but that
Because
almost
because
is
they
more
got
work.
none, I know, because they scored,
Under a different-
none of them scored above 70, and that was the cutoff.
Right, are you gonna go look and do background checks on them or something? When you apply for 501c3, you do get a background check, it's done. So, I mean, it makes more work for less money.
And
And-
Karina did an enormous amount of work.
So-
I would like to withdraw my
There we go.
motion pending the results of Pam's 2 mentorship programs, which I think are great, and another cycle with Karina's strong leadership, and then we'll look at the issue next year. Oh, and we have both our mayor and our liaison, and the issue of money, as you no doubt hear from us all the time. For those who can't see, we're getting 2 thumbs up from our large audience.
Okay, I'm going to move us along, but I think you have the license to do some research. If you ever need like legal opinions, we know good lawyers. All right, I'm going to move on to 6C, if we don't have any public comments on that.
I'm up.
You're up. I'm going to turn this over to my
What's her name?
co-chair, no, my vice chair. You're trying to make me be a co,
You keep
aren't you?
promoting me. No,
Okay,
thank you.
No, you can't.
So
Steiner,
we've received a formal request from the Ojai Valley Inn to remove the fountain at the Topa Mountain Winery. And this request is accompanied by an appraisal from an ASA certified fine art appraiser. That information is in your materials. The work was placed at the winery pursuant to the winery's then public art obligation back in 2016, and it's titled Tree of Life. It's a hand-painted glazed ceramic panel produced by RTK Studio here in Ojai. I want to give you first a little bit of background on the obligation and then a little bit of background on the work itself. So the inn recently purchased the winery and is working with both the city and the county on extensive renovation and construction and et cetera. The Planning Commission just last night held an extensive and positive hearing on the plans for the site. The new project will, of necessity, include a public art obligation, which the inn can satisfy by commissioning a new work or by placing the equivalent value in the fund. And so now for the fountain itself, which you will see on your screens, a few points. So I've heard anecdotally that the work did not function well as a fountain, if it functioned at all. The next slide, please. So there is the fountain to the left under those eaves. Next one, please. Okay, so it's 2005, not 2006. That is, 15, thank you.
At least the
That
plaque
is,
says that.
that is the image with the plaque itself. Is that my photo or?
This is a combination of
Okay,
what we
but-
had with the
but-
submittal
but
and your.
That way,
AI.
that way we get to see the plaque, which is great. So surprisingly, the appraisal revealed that the Tree of Life panel is published in the RTK catalog as currently available at the list price of $7,350. So the availability, surprisingly, I didn't know that. The availability of this multiple raises a serious question of whether this fountain is an appropriate work of public art at all. Section 4-16.204 identifies what is an acceptable use of public art funds, and equally importantly, what's not an acceptable use of public art funds. Subsection F of 204 identifies ineligible expenditures, including reproductions, mass-produced objects, et cetera, and it specifically excludes, quote, unlimited editions of original artworks, unquote. Now, I expect that if this project had come before CAPA and then had come before this commission for approval, for ratification rather, of CAPA's determination, if it came before us today, that in fact it would not be approved in the same manner that the El Roblar mural was not approved because it didn't meet the criteria. So the fountain is inarguably an open edition multiple. And I note in passing that the statute does allow for waivers of requirements in various parts of the statute, so I can only assume that the prior Arts Commission looked at that and determined that it would waive the exclusion.
Christine, one moment. Do we know, this may have been an original work at the time that it was put in, and due to the success of people liking it, they made reproduction afterwards, so.
Well, the appraiser looked at that question, and that's not the case. It's an open edition
Okay.
catalog,
That
multiple.
existed prior to 2015?
Let's
Yeah,
get, let's
was-
get full report, and then we'll do questions, please.
And I note that this, what I can only call an infirmity, is one reason that a qualified art consultant is a vital part of any project, and I'm pleased that we finally got a robust list of art consultants in place. I'm almost done. And so for the reason that this work does not meet the definition of eligible artworks, and because the request from the Ojai Valley Inn is reasonable, I move that we approve the Ojai Valley Inn's request to remove the work, and we look forward to a new project to be developed for the site, or that the equivalent funds for the new project be placed in the Public Art Fund. That is my motion.
All right, I'll second that, so we can talk about it. So what happens with that appraisal that was done? Or is that
Well,
moot?
the appraisal was informational,
Okay.
related to the appraisal and related to the issue of the fund. The city attorney has advised that under 4-16-217, if the removal is approved, there's no obligation to place the fair market value or indeed any amount in the public art fund. And the reason is this. The statute provides that if a work is affixed to a structure, such as this work is, then the Arts Commission approval is required in order to remove the work, period. If, however, a work is not affixed to a structure, that is, if it's freestanding, then commission approval is required as well, and there's an additional requirement that its fair market value must be placed in the public art fund. So we don't have that fair market value obligation here.
What about
you
a
know,
sculpture?
I've-
I mean, at what point is it removable? I mean,
Well, we don't have to get into the question of how can it be removed, because this is so permanently affixed to a wall that it cannot be
Okay.
removed
I'm
without
wondering,
damage.
is our other stuff going to run?
But there's lots of case law on that whole question. The point I wanted to make is that I was very surprised by 217. In fact, at one point I assumed it was a typo, that why, in fact, in the case of affixed, would it not require the same sort of placement. And then I realized that likely, and I can only assume without doing more research into the history, is that for works that are affixed to a structure, what's going to be happening next is that likely there's going to be new construction, there's going to be renovation, there's going to be sort of step two that follows step one of the removal. And for that reason, there will be a follow-on obligation to put put funds in the public art fund or to commission a new work. And so for that reason, point 217 does make a great deal of sense.
Okay, so is it the, I'm going to just, if you, excuse me, is it the, so we're saying this is not public art? Is that what we're saying?
No, we don't have to address that question
Okay.
because an earlier Arts Commission determined that it is public art. All we have to do is approve or disapprove the Ojai Valley Inn's request to remove the fountain.
Okay. The fact that RTK has offered it for sale, I assume you mean offered a copy of it, or?
It's in its catalog as available for sale.
But is
the
that
appraiser
material?
explains
Was that a disqualifying?
As I said, it should have been
Yeah.
a disqualifying factor to the Arts Commission that determined it. But again, the statute is peppered with permission to waive certain requirements, so they may well have determined that they would waive that open multiples issue.
Okay. Pamela, do you have a question?
Well, I was just going to ask, because it's a new owner of the building, how does they're not under any obligation to replace that investment?
Yeah, well, they will be under an obligation pursuant to their construction.
Right, okay.
To go ahead with either commissioning a new work or putting that equivalent in the public art fund.
Okay.
The same as El Roblar, the same as all of the other projects
I
that
get
we've
it.
encountered.
I didn't see that in our report, that it was an open-ended addition.
So the appraiser, when you say our report, you mean the appraisal report?
Yeah, that we
Yeah,
got in our
okay.
notes.
So the appraisal states at there's a lot of blah, blah, blah that these appraisers put in this stuff. It's toward the conclusion, and let me find it. It is on page 10 of 17 under the primary market at retail. And it states, the RTK website provides a vast array of products and services, and we have relied upon their posting catalog with prices to form an opinion of the current fair market value. And then it goes on to say that it's available on the catalog, and it's listed with a SKU and a description and dimensions with a price of $7,350.
Where are you getting the addition information?
Well, because it's in their catalog as available, it's an open unnumbered edition.
You can buy anyone can buy it.
I mean, I don't know.
This is a panel now, not the
Like-
Yeah, but
fountain.
I mean, that's
Okay.
That's
a
your
definitional assumption.
that's your assumption.
but it
I mean,
isn't an assumption.
It could be a variation. I mean, as you said, it doesn't really matter for this case, but,
But not if it's on the I mean, not if it's in their catalog as available, then it means that it's not a numbered edition that's sequentially numbered, signed by the artist, et cetera, et cetera. It means that it's an open edition. Either something's a closed edition or it's an open edition. You know
so,
that.
yeah, well, that's why I was wondering why it isn't noted there.
Because it doesn't need to be. It's
Right.
assumed if it's in the catalog. I mean,
Okay.
all of us could go buy it for $7,350.
So what about the destruction of it? Are there any, you would know?
Well, it's not covered by VARA, right? And the reason it's not covered by VARA is because it's not a unique object or let's see, the statute says a sculptural work that's sequentially numbered in an edition of 200 or fewer and signed by signature or mark of the sculptor. So we don't have a covered object.
I would think that we should, seek clarification on this,
On what?
on whether or not,
It's covered by VARA?
yeah.
It's not covered by
Okay,
VARA.
or that this, their catalog is up to date, or, I mean,
Through the chair, if I may.
Yes.
We did run this by the city attorney previously to make sure that this does not have any concerns with California, the CAPA Act, as well as also VERA, and we see no objections with those elements.
Correct.
Yeah,
Good.
Commissioner Christine did do her legal background, both with our staff and with her own expertise.
So that is my motion. We do have a second.
One other discussion item before we vote is, we did, the inn approached us. Well, I guess it came up in conversation with Chris at the inn that this was a piece of public art and we had to research this. And so we asked the inn to do this, get an art expert, an art
Well,
appraiser.
really, they made the formal request, and then we said under 217, we assumed at that time that we did need a fair market
Right.
value, and they jumped through those hoops, but
Yeah.
now we know that we don't need a fair market value.
Right, well, I want to
so
make, like
the
I said, I want to make
request-
sure that, but at the same time, that when they did their appraisal, they were able to determine that it was in the catalog as well. I mean, so that was a helpful,
That's what the
helpful thing
appraiser
there.
determined,
So
and it
at
was
the-
very helpful
at the end of the
to
day,
our analysis.
I want to make sure that we're treating our hosts of public art businesses in town appropriately, and I don't say anything, I feel like this,
yeah,
it couldn't have happened a different way, so I just wanted to kind of make sure
yeah, that's.
that we're consistent for the future as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I will, unless there's more discussion, I'll call for a vote on this.
2 points, if I may. May I clarify the motion? And presently, I believe we only have the initial making of the motion. We don't have a second yet.
No, I seconded it.
Yeah.
Understood,
Smitty
thank you.
seconded.
Can I just ask one question regarding their new public art percent will be based on their new construction?
Correct.
So it's going to be much greater than $8,000, maybe?
We shall see, that's
We
not
don't
a
know.
question.
It'll
That's
be
not a
according to law.
question.
I just felt like, are they getting,
Question for us.
2%,
are they
1%.
getting rid of one and not getting another?
I would hope, well, let's finish the vote, then I'll have something to say about our fountain here.
May I also clarify the motion? What I presently have is approve the removal with the understanding that future development will follow public art requirements of new development. I believe that there was a second portion to the motion.
No, actually, I think the motion is a lot simpler
Simpler, yeah.
than that. The motion is simply for the Arts Commission to approve the Ojai Valley Inn's request to remove the Tree of Life fountain that was placed at Topa Mountain Winery.
Yes, right, and I seconded
Period.
that one.
Understood, and you've called the vote? Understood. Commissioner Grau.
I approve.
Commissioner Leeds is absent. Vice Chair Steiner.
Yes.
Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
And Chairperson West.
Yes,
Motion passes 4-0.
okay, thank you, and I assume staff will notify, someone will notify.
We'll notify the planning
Right.
department, who I believe will take the necessary steps.
In my tenure on the Arts Commission, the fountain had been a problem, but it was more of a functional problem with the way that the water and the pump worked, which is just below the picture that's there too. And I remember previous commissions had threatened to remove it from the public art for some other reasons as well. I guess the inn owns that now, and I don't know, I assume they might, would they try to save some of it, or is that up to them, I guess?
Well, it's up to them, but I don't think it will be easy to save, and besides, for $7,350, they could go buy a new one.
Right.
But I agree with you. I understand anecdotally that it never really worked, or it never worked properly. So it may be that this is just as well. I should add, while we're on the topic, that, as you know, we had a comprehensive condition analysis of all of our public art. This was excluded because it wasn't available at
Couldn't
the
get in,
time.
yeah.
It was behind a fence, and that was in part because the transfer had just occurred. So we don't even have to look at that question.
Okay. Well,
Okay, thank you all. I know the inn will be pleased. I mean, it's certainly, we don't want the tail to wag the dog here, but
Yeah.
this is an important, smaller piece of that much larger puzzle.
Sure.
And I just want to clarify that I always loathe to see any art destroyed.
Yes, right, but,
Well, but an open edition multiple times.
Well, yeah, if it is,
all
since it is, yes, let it roll.
right.
Hand painted though. I don't know how that's.
I know council will be looking at, there's bigger issues over there than there is just the little fountain, but maybe we've streamlined that little piece of it anyways for you guys.
Updates?
Commissioner updates. Where's my hammer?
Am I on again?
Where is your hammer? You need it.
You got something to say? Commissioner Steiner, Public Art.
I do.
I apologize. People moved some things around.
At the risk of speaking again, here I am. So we know we're waiting for an update on El Roblar, and James, I think the update is that there's no update. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So as we know from last meeting, they can't get their, they can't get their occupancy permit or whatever it is until they've satisfied this. So we're okay there. Because we have our mayor and also our liaison, we are hopeful that we may have a joint meeting at some point very soon. I say that because we'd like to take that opportunity to roll out the conservation report, because I think it's of such significance that it's something that the public would be interested in, both to know what is public art and its condition. So we would devote like a big chunk of that time to the sort of AV of looking at those works. I'm noting it down. Great, thank you. And I know for the public that we had 2 thumbs up from our elected officials. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Commissioner Grau, Education, please.
Yes. So yesterday, we hosted a workshop on arts enrichment seminar on marketing your art. The presenter was Sung Hee Song, a curator from Los Angeles. We had 45 people and a lot of enthusiasm. She was very generous with her information, but also is supposed to send me her PDF presentation that she projected that I will then email to all the people who came. And a lot of gratitude and enthusiasm, and a request that the next one be on social media posting. Everyone seemed to want more information on how to do that, and I've contacted someone I know in Los Angeles who's an expert on that. So I'm working on towards that one. Mentorships are still in process of putting together this program. I'm hoping to coordinate that with the Art Center because they have all the different disciplines, and I think my presentation's in March to them. I want to shout out to David Berger for the new theater because I've seen 3 movies there since they opened, and I feel I feel so much gratitude in having this new venue and the types of films he's showing, these really interesting offbeat movies. anyhow, I wanted to publicly say that.
Which you'll say in your commissioner comments.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. I thought that's what we were doing.
You may.
Well, that's my report. My report is the seminars are going well. People are liking them.
Point of order.
And it's
I
a
didn't
good
call on
use
you.
of our funds, so thank you.
Anything else on grants? Thank you, Commissioner Grau. Commissioner Ray?
No, no more
Okay.
on grants.
Communications City Collection, nothing there from Commissioner Leeds. I just report a couple things. The county has just released their survey. I had one of the early ones. They're surveying all the artists and arts organizations they can find in the county as part of their economic impact of the creative economy in the county. This will probably trickle out without us, but I'll forward copies of the online survey to you guys, anyways, and you can fill it out just as individuals or forward to anyone else that you want to. Now, we're piggybacking on this with our grant request from the state to do the same sort of thing, drilling down in Ojai to determine $100,000 to do an economic impact of the creative arts in the Ojai Valley so that we can plan in the future, appropriate grants, appropriate our education programs, make the jobs better that we do have, make them more equitable. I'm listing their criteria, environmentally friendly, and so we'll hear this month whether we got approved for that grant. That will also include $75,000 for related education programs and for direct grants to artists and arts organizations as well. Nothing on the technology, okay. Future agenda items, okay. I'm hoping that in the staff report, we're going to hear about the grants when they're going to be before the council. I was a little, we awarded these things in November. Yeah, it's a shame we can't get the money to the people faster. That's it. We're going to move ahead. We have a plan. Next year we'll have to update our 5-year plan, and I look forward to putting a lot of little check marks on things that we wanted to do in our first couple of years, and we have a few new things in the future. But we're following our plan, and if it's not in our plan, we don't do it, and if we want it in the plan, we get it in the plan through our planning processes. So I look forward to that. Future agenda items. Anybody want to bring up something now to make sure we don't lose it?
So I'd like to agendize for our next meeting, getting approval on 2 new seminars and also approval for the grant writing and fiscal sponsorship workshop. So that would be 4.
So you just need the amounts and the names in advance. Good.
Okay.
We got this process working now too. And we do have that little, we didn't use it this month, but that we have a document and a Google Doc. If you guys think of anything, and if you can go straight there and put it there. Remember that? Yeah. You can always put it on there. Then I'll not miss it anyways. And I'll make sure James sees it too.
And I have an item.
Yes.
So I'd like us to discuss a standard land acknowledgement to follow the Pledge of Allegiance. I note that the California Arts Council starts, which is sort of the mothership of us all arts commissions, starts its meetings with a land acknowledgement. It does not even have a flag salute. The museum has a land acknowledgement. We could explore whether we would echo theirs or different, but I would like us to have a robust discussion about that, and if we agree, for it to immediately follow the Pledge of Allegiance.
Nice. We'll make sure that's on there. Anybody else? Something you don't want to miss? You got a month to get them on there. Well, 3.5 weeks anyways, too. All right, I'm going to ask Liaison Renger to give the report from staff. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. For our staff report today, going to the question of grants, we have provided that the grants finding are ready for presentation on the consent agenda at their earliest convenience. For the public art valuations, we do have no update at this time, although there are a few interesting things on the way. But we'll speak at that as they materialize more. Other than that, no reports at this time.
I have a question.
The city council's consent agenda is where they would approve or pull the recommendation for the grants. Presently, I have not been provided a date. It'll be at their earliest convenience.
Sometime in 2025, I hope. This isn't money. As long as I've been on the commission, it was always a consent item at the council, or even grant recommendation. So it's just, and I've been getting calls from the artists, and I say, well, we voted, yeah.
I know it, I'm
give you
getting-
money, but
getting calls, too.
That's not official, it's not our money, it's the council's. Yeah, it would be nice.
Well, commissioner
I'm sorry, what are we-
I'll start.
No,
with
please,
No,
if,
no, no, I
I'm,
think this is
I
an
have-
interrogation of staff time, right?
it's a friendly question of James, not an interrogation. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, James, you are going to provide us with a matrix that sort of keeps us up to date on where things are in the timeline with all of the public art matters. When do you think we can get that?
With the generation of any of the reports, that would need to be brought before the city manager to direct staff to generate those reports.
So as we discussed last meeting, we used to have those all the time, and I provided you an example from earlier. So are you saying that because your earlier predecessors failed to continue to provide us the information we used to receive, that now we reinitiate that process?
My recommendation would be to ask that the city manager direct staff to generate the reports, and that would be something that the commission would be able to request. I can't speak on past practices.
Okay, yeah. So can you request that we get those? It's important.
Yeah, once we get it started, I think it'll be easier. In the past, it would sit there static for a year, until there was new economic development and there was some new project that was coming in.
No, actually, we looked at, Smitty, I mean, you were on the commission longer than I was, but we looked at it every time, so we had a snapshot of where things
Yes.
were in the process, and I think we do need that.
I'm agreeing. I'm just saying, but once I think it's already done, and the only thing that's happened since then has been the theater.
But the point
And
is,
so
you
it's not-
apparently have to request that of the manager, if you
I
would
will.
please do it so
I
we
will
can have
do
it
that.
back in our materials.
I will do that. Thank you.
That skunk.
Okay, commissioner comments. If you guys have anything nice to say. Pamela?
I'm queasy from the skunk smell. I mean, seriously, this is so strong, my eyes are watering.
Yeah, that's right. We have deniability on anything we've done tonight from the fumes from the skunk. Commissioner Steiner, yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you. So the fires that are consuming Los Angeles, we know that the artistic community, visual artists, performing artists, musicians are deeply affected by these, and in large part because the materials that are used for this creativity have in so many cases been entirely destroyed by the fire. So I know many people are doing so very many things. I just wanted to acknowledge how difficult this is, and even in light of the discussion about grants and whether individuals should get it, I have been mindful that it's so important to take care of our individual artists.
Thank you. Commissioner Gray?
I would second that about the Ojai Playhouse. Had a great night there. And I just wanted to really thank Richard Camp for his presentation tonight. And he just reminds me and underscores how many brilliantly talented people we have in this community, and that so many artists want to call Ojai home. And from the visual artists, to the performing artists, to the musicians, to the actors, on and on. It's just astounding to me, and I'm really pleased he could come and share his little monologue, and I hope we can all go see it. And again, the importance of art in Ojai is just so obvious, and I'm really hoping we can get more money. And I also think maybe our joint meeting, we could discuss with the city council the grants and how we might evolve them. So that would be exciting for me.
Right.
And I want to congratulate you both, but Rachel, I see you're Mayor Pro Tem. Congratulations. My city council person as well.
All done?
And welcome, Andy.
All right, thank you. I want to echo what Commissioner Steiner said about the fires and the way they were affected. I was just asked last month in December by the county to be on a committee to address how artists have been affected by those Camarillo fires, you know, and here we are with something even larger and affecting even more artists. And I do see in the FEMA area, they're putting all the surrounding counties, so Ventura County and San Bernardino and Orange County are also sort of affected in this area. So as help and funding becomes available, we'll hear about it here in Ventura County, and we'll be able to offer both our experience from the trauma of the Thomas Fire and how that affected our community. And no one feels trauma more than artists do. So it's a special thing we've all been through, and we're pleased that there's going to be acknowledgement of that by federal and state and county. I want to congratulate Mayor Andy on your new, and thank you for being here, and thank you for meeting with us prior to your taking office this month. And I know arts are in good hands with our mayor. For the quarter, our liaison Lang, I guess your liaison council person. Thank you. Look forward to it. I'm very anxious. I know that we're going to ask you to come forward and give a little statement if you want. You have 30 seconds, is that what she gets?
Oh, I can talk really fast. I've been practicing. No, okay. Well, I'm so excited to be with you all again. I love all the work that you're doing, and I feel so much of this, just a revitalization of the energy, all new ideas. It's really great to be with you. Mayor Gilman and I just talked about moving the consent calendar item up and requesting that be moved up to the February 11th meeting. So we're gonna push for that and bring that to the staff. I wanted to address a couple of things. First of all, I was just at the Economic Development Collaborative annual meeting just before here, and I ran into David Yashimoto.
Yeah.
Thank you. And he told me about the survey, so I told him we would work. We've got city social media mobilization happening, and so we would help you in your efforts to spread that out and get as many people to participate as possible. And we also talked about getting together and seeing how else we could support you. So that's one thing. The other thing that the Economic Development Collaborative does for any artists who are in need of hardship funding, because especially ones who are selling their work as small businesses or have LLCs or anything like that, there are certain grants and loans that are available for anyone who has had any kind of losses as a result of fires, even if they didn't live in the fire-hit areas. So anyone who's been affected because routes were closed to Camarillo, and they couldn't get to their galleries, or anyone who has had supplies in LA, or they're not able to do their work, there are resources available, and the EDC is a great resource for support, strategy, and for financial assistance as well. And those were my big reports. So thank you all again for your incredible service.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, and the grants will go better this year.
Thank you.
Well, I think we're
Yeah.
we're looking forward to that, too. Thank you. That's it. So I'm going to adjourn this meeting until our next regular meeting, February 20th, 6 p.m. right here. Thank you all very much. Where's-
There was someone in the room before I got in and moved some things, so.
Just to tell you guys something unofficial, which is, that letter that I gave you just now, the one that I forwarded, that came with the grant. So when the grant came, that letter came saying, here's your reporting requirement. And it says December 31st. So, I mean, it's there, so everybody should have gotten that, so the expectation should be there. But online is great and all that kind of stuff, so nobody